So up until recently, I don't think there's any other British club have held both trophies or have been kings of Europe like Aberdeen have. When Fergie said to me, "Don't worry, you're not going to Rangers, but don't worry, you're going to Norwich," I was like, "Norwich? Where's Norwich?" That was, I think I remember, the only thing I remember about Norwich was Justin Fashionu's goal against Liverpool when he flicked it round and volleyed it against my hero Ray Clements in the top corner. We ended up beating Bayern 2-1 in the Olympic Stadium, and to this day we are the only British club to have ever won there, and that's in the history books now. Nobody can take that away from us because they don't play there anymore. Wikipedia do league games only.
Yeah, that's
we're
right.
all about the data here, Brian. All about the data.
All about analysis and data. Love it. It's 477 games in total.
Oh wow!
So it must be lots of cup games.
There you go.
Full members, Simoid, like whatever else. Rumbelows Cup, played in the Rumbelows. Got a TV for being man of the match. The McLeish, Miller, Gordon Strachan, even Mark McGee, Eric Black, all went into management on the back of working with Alec Ferguson.
Welcome, football fans, to Breaking Lines, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the beautiful game like never before. I'm Gary Rowett, former player and manager, joined by the insightful Dave Carolan, a man with his finger on the pulse of football's beating heart. Together, Dave and I bring you unrivaled insight, context, and a few stories from the trenches. This is Breaking Lines, where the game is more than just a match.
We're delighted to be joined today by one of the most recognisable characters, players of the Premier League era. A big character with hopefully lots to share with us today on Breaking Lines. We're joined by Bryan Gunn. Bryan, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, I was a bit panicky because my technology skills aren't as good as some other people in the forum today. So I think Gary looks like he's got a bit. He's got his headphones in there, and he was. I think he was up at 8 o'clock this morning getting ready for this.
Dave's the tech guy, Brian. Honestly, I just say to Dave, how the hell do I do this? And Dave tells me. So yeah, you're in good company, mate. Mine look good, but there's not much beyond under the surface, mate.
Yeah, I like the background there. Mrs. Gunn would like the Tom Ford and the Picasso books in the background.
There you go.
Very, very, very stylish.
I do as I'm told.
Dave's obviously nicked all the kit out of the every club he's been at, hasn't he?
Typical sports science, mate. They're just trying to, you know what I mean? He's saying he's played for every club 500 times.
Brilliant. Good to see you.
There you go. Well, you know, Gunny, it's brilliant to have you on here. And you've, as I alluded to at the start, you've had a wide-ranging career that's moved all the way from being obviously a top-class goalkeeper and people who will remember very, very far back to the start of the Premier League and the great days at Norwich when you were playing in the European Cup and beating Bayern Munich. But all the way through from being player to in commercial to goalkeeper, coach, manager as well, and then now what you're doing in agency. It's been a fascinating journey, I'm sure.
Well, it has been, yeah. Sort of hit my 60th year in December there. So looking back, it seems like yesterday. You know, we're still celebrating our great days at Aberdeen, and that's 40 years ago. We've got a WhatsApp group. So again, the technology has got to the Aberdeen squad as well. So some people are a bit slow in replying and haven't got Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts when you send a little story in there. But so and then we did a little reunion for the UEFA Cup run as well back in November. So we got a few of the boys back for that as well. So yeah, just to be involved with sort of not great success, but success. Aberdeen's was great success because they beat Real Madrid in the UEFA Cup, Cup Winners' Cup final. So that was great success. Then they went on to beat Hamburg in the Super Cup. So up until recently, I don't think there's any other British club have held, both trophies or have been kings of Europe like Aberdeen have. So to be part of that, and that was number 2 goalkeeper really behind Jim Leighton. So I've learnt my trade. Done the hard yards behind the scenes, cleaned Willie Miller's boots, Alec McLeish's boots, Used to have to put some Lasinol underneath Willie Miller's toilet door to help with piles in the morning. Clean the baths out with Teddy Scott, the kit man. Sir Alex's, or he was only Alex Ferguson's favourite babysitter. So some of the football titles are there, but I've also got other titles, being the best babysitter. I worked for a mobile phone company for a year. I don't know if you remember that, Dave, but we used to have the digital phone company as our sponsors.
I remember those days,
I was the sponsorship sales manager, so I was really, really well in with the managing director, Phil Ryder. And after I got sacked as manager, so straight on the phone straight away, he says, why don't you come and work for me? So I said, F off. No way, I'm selling mobile phones. He says, no. He says, come and play golf with the customers. I said, what, you're going to pay me to play golf with your customers? He said, yeah, come in 1 day a week, just learn all the names of the managing directors and go and find them on the golf course. And I did that for a year. And my handicap went down to 6.4. So
what you're saying is there's benefits to getting sacked sometimes.
Benefits to getting the sack. And one of getting the sack was obviously was a sad day. But, even 2 weeks ago now in Munich, I was shaking hands with Manny, the kit man. So Manny, our kit man, is working for Scotland. And we bumped into each other after the game. And, to still be called gaffer by, some players and especially a kit man is amazing. Dave didn't call me that, Gary, because I used to beat him at hitting the crossbar before the game. So that was our little, let's go out and get ready, goalkeeping coach and fitness coach. So we'd go out first, get all the cones out, and then we'd have a crossbar challenge. And obviously, 9 times out of 10, I won it.
I think he's taken it on in his own career, Brian. I think you must have been a big influence because he's always out there either doing crossbar challenge with a player or nearest to the corner flag. Or you can see it, and he claims it. He claims it's his, and he claims it's his. But now I'm realising that plagiarism is part of Dave's warm up as well. Brian, I'm going to take you back to those sort of early days at Aberdeen. You spoke about sort of Alex Ferguson. You spoke about some of those leaders. Yeah. Within that squad. How important was that as a young player, to sort of learn the ropes that way, and how much sort of did you take from those, how did that shape your career moving forward, those early days at Aberdeen?
Well, it was tough. It was a tough school with those guys because they were all very successful international players as well. And probably learned the most from that period in terms of professionalism and hard work as well. I mean, hard work was imperative to Alex Ferguson, and standards. I think standards was the one of the biggest thing coming out of it was the fact that no matter if you win a game, you can still do better, and those things were coming across in team talks, pre-match talks, and just being part of that squad and rubbing shoulders with a winning environment, because I joined in 1980. Aberdeen had won their league title 1979 with Sir Alex, so I was part of the scene with being a schoolboy and signing. Myself and Eric Black came from the far north of Scotland, and to join in with a team like that, and I was very fortunate because Bobby Clark was the Scotland international keeper at the time. Jim Layton was Scotland under 21 goalkeeper. But and I was Scotland's under 16 goalkeeper, so we probably had some, sort of the right standard within the club. But then Bobby got injured, and they didn't really replace him. So at 17, I was part of the first team squad. I was learning the trade with Jim Layton. No goalkeeping coaches in those days. So we'd go away ourselves for half an hour, 45 minutes, do our own routine. Work hard together, and then we'd come into normal crossing and finishing, small-sided games, etc., like that, shooting practices. So that was different, and I didn't really sort of have the benefit of a goalkeeping coach until the 90s, I don't think, and that was a part-time goalkeeping coach in Martin Thomas. I don't even remember Martin used to come in on a Thursday afternoon at Norwich, and that was my only sort of professional input from somebody who'd worn the gloves as well. Whereas, you'd have John Dean, Mel Machin. I mean, Mel Machin as well. Mel Machin used to just love battering you. He'd hit 40 shots at you from about 6 yards, and you'd have to get up, and you'd just be dead by the end of it. But again, it's learning, standards, and always good for fitness levels. But I think the McLeish, Miller, Gordon Strachan, even Mark McGee. I've named them, Gary, specifically. Eric Black, all went into management on the back of working with Alec Ferguson. And I even went into management myself, because as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, we used to get sent to Largs when the players were doing their coaching badges. And we'd be the players on the pitch, the guinea pigs. So we'd be, part of your sessions when you're doing your coaching badges. And we did that for 2 years back to back. And then I thought in year 3, we might as well do our badges as well at the same time. So myself, Neil Cooper, Eric Black, we turned it round and we started doing our coaching badges at that time. And, that's where it all started, really. There was no real plan to go into management then, but we thought that we might as well have the benefit of doing the hard work and, get some benefit from the end of it, and not just having 6 pints of lager in the Largs village at night.
Sounds pretty good benefits, that one. How did you learn the technicalities of goalkeeping? And I know back then there wasn't as much. People won't understand but there wasn't really loads of coaching for any players, was there? But as a goalkeeper, to have no goalkeeper coach, so how do you even go about, learning those sort of intricacies of being a goalkeeper?
It's a great question, and to answer it would be, we just did what we did with our own natural skills. I was a completely different goalkeeper to Jim Layton. Jim Layton struggled kicking the ball. He was a great shot stopper, reflexes. McLeish and Miller would dictate the penalty box. They didn't like you coming out. They'd like to head everything away. And it wasn't until I came into the team when I used to love coming out for crosses. And I'd get in amongst it and they'd be shouting at me, "Get back in your line, we'll head it away." I said, "No, I'm going to come and catch it." So I think we sort of blended. I ended up playing about 25 games and, sort of mostly victories playing for Aberdeen. I think there was only one or two defeats in that time. And, sort of learning your trade behind those guys, it was tough. And then I did something with Big Alec in Stuttgart last week. And I reminded him about the goal I let in my debut for Scotland. And he was a centre half that night. And someone stuck it in the corner and he looked at me and he shook his head and he said, "You should have saved that, big man." And that was on my debut for Scotland. So that was him. He'd done that 150 times in the last 6 years before that when I was at Aberdeen. But so, those guys shaped me as a goalkeeper. And then I suppose it's watching as well, Gary, isn't it? It's watching other goalkeepers on television. I love Ray Clements. I met Ray Clements when I was 16, Pat Jennings when I was 16. So again, you sort of look at them and you see the highlights, Big Pat coming out and catching things with one hand, Ray coming out for crosses elegantly and then, kicking the ball well. And then I think you just sort of develop your own skill and technique from that. And I was a drop kicker. I used to drop kick it. So that was a different skill as well from Jim. Used to hit it high. So I was the maker of some goals as well. I take some credit. Not assists. So I put Johnny Hewitt through in a European Cup tie against Gothenburg and he scored. And Ali McCoist against Switzerland for Scotland and he scored. And then obviously that same thing with Norwich. You used to knock it up to Chris Sutton's chest and he'd put it out wide to Foxy, cross it in, goal. So it was my skill that I saw someone else do and I thought that's the way I'm gonna sort of shape my goalkeeping skills, and drop kick was one of my favourites.
Worth millions now. You'd be worth millions now, Bryan. Hey, who'd have thought people was doing that 20, 30, 40 years ago? Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
I'm playing out from the back. Out from the back because, again, Fergie, Sir Alex Ferguson, Archie Knox, Mel Machin. They used to let the goalkeepers join in the rondos, as they call them now, in the circles.
The circle.
Yeah, in the circles. So, we'd be in there as well, passing drills, driven passes. Archie Knox used to love a ping and a driven pass. We still text them just now when we see someone hit a great pass on the European Championships. Say, Archie, it's a driven pass, and he's from Dundee, so that's my Dundee accent.
We can detect the change there. Yeah, very subtle.
Just a little bit. I don't know if it was perfect Dundonian, but and I think that's the benefit of being with good players. You learn good skills. So I think that was and good coaches. Sorry, and although there was no goalkeeping coach, good coaches, and I say lucky enough to be behind Jim Leighton, who was Scotland's number one, and I was under 21s, and then I had to take my opportunity to move to Norwich when it came up.
Gunny, obviously you come down to Norwich, and it probably accelerates even more. Then it's coming into the Premier League. Was that a real shift in standard, or was the standard just as good in Scotland in those days, or was it suddenly the Premier League and it's the best of the best?
Well, I actually came down in '86 when it was Division 1. So 86 to 92, I was playing in Division 1, and at that time Norwich had just got promoted from Division 2. Mel Machin, Ken Brown was the managers. Chris Woods had just left Norwich and gone to Rangers. I actually thought I was going to Rangers. Fergie had told me that Walter Smith was keen on me because he was the under-21 manager, but that was the same season as Graham Souness came in, and it was an English revolution up there. You remember, like Chris Woods, Terry Butcher, Graham Roberts, Terry Hurlock, Mark Aitley. So they went very through the spine, very, very English, and that was Graham because of his knowledge of the players from playing in England as well. So I ended up at Norwich. So when Fergie said to me, "Don't worry, you're not going to Rangers, but don't worry, you're going to Norwich," I was like, "Norwich? Where's Norwich?" That was I think I remember, the only thing I remember about Norwich was Justin Fashnou's goal against Liverpool, when he flicked it round and volleyed it against my hero, Ray Clements, in the top corner. So, all right, Norwich. So learn a bit more about Norwich. All right, there's a direct flight from Norwich to Aberdeen. They just got promoted. So I go down, have my talks. So I get to the nitty gritty with Ken Brown. Well, what's the deal then? He went, "It's all done." And I went, "What do you mean it's all done?" He says, "Alex has agreed it." And I went, "What?" So I said, "Well, what is it then?" He says, "Oh, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Oh, that's all right then. I'm quite happy with that." So he looked after me in that way. He was my first agent, obviously, getting me my deal. But unfortunately for me, when I was going back up to get my gear, Jim Leighton got injured. And I had to play another 6 games for Aberdeen in August and September. So I never got down to Norwich until the October, and at that time Norwich won the first 7 games and were top of the league, top of Division 1. So Graham Benstead was in goals. So I'm going down, finally signed, go down with my life belongings. I've got 2 holdalls and 2 suit carriers, and that's me. I moved to Norwich, and Graham Benstead's number 1. Ken says, "Look, I'm sorry, I can't take him out now." So we were working away with Mel Machin in training one day. Benny's up and down, up and down. Next minute, he hurts his shoulder. And this is the day before a game at Anfield against Liverpool. So I'm saying, "Are you all right, Graham? You all right?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Just go in and see the physio and make sure you're okay." So I had to stay out and get there. And I said, "You okay?" He said, "Yeah." And in those days, you never had goalkeepers travelling. There was only one sub back then. So goalkeepers. So I said, "I've got some other bits and pieces to do in Aberdeen. Can I go back up for the weekend?" So I go back to Aberdeen. I'm sitting watching Dundee v Aberdeen at Dens Park, and then I can hear someone on the radio says, "Oh, Liverpool 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 4-1. Oh, and the goalkeeper's been taken off. So the goalkeeper, Graham Benstead's come off with a shoulder injury. So he dislocated his shoulder
Oh, wow.
at Anfield. And trying to remember who went in goals, because I know that Mark Bowen went in goals when I got sent off and when I got injured once. So I think it might have been Taffy went in goals. But they got beat 6-2. And then that was my first opportunity, came in a full Members' Cup tie. Remember those, Gary? Full members.
Yeah.
Full members cup against Coventry City. I think we had about 6,000 at Carrow Road that night. And unfortunately, on my debut, I gave away a penalty. Mickey Ginn came through, and I thought I'd blocked the ball against him. He'd gone flying up and went down. Anyway, Mickey Ginn got stretched it off with a dislocated collarbone as well. So I done Mickey in my debut, unfortunately. We ended up winning 2-1. Made my debut on a Saturday against Tottenham. Can't remember who was the main people in that team. Made my debut against Ray Clements. Ray Clements was playing for Tottenham at the other end, and then I think that I saved in the last 10 minutes from Nico Clausen header, and Norwich won 2-1, and we stayed up in the top 3 or 4 at that time then. And I remember Fergie saying to me, as I left Aberdeen, he says, "Look, go to Norwich, but you're better than that. You're a top 6 goalkeeper." I was like, "Right, okay, thanks for that, boss." Anyway, he was right, because we finished 5th that season. So at the end of the season, we finished 5th. Okay, so that was brilliant. We ended up beating Arsenal 2-1 at Highbury to get into 5th, which would have got us in the UEFA Cup, but for the Heysel ban at that time. So unfortunately, we didn't qualify. I think we finished 10th the season after. 88, 89, we finished 4th and got to the FA Cup semi-final. So Fergie was right again, top 6 goalkeeper. And then, Dave, we go on to 92, to the start of the Premier League. And we were leading the Premier League until February, I think, maybe March. And we played Man United at Carrow Road. And they beat us 3-1. And they never lost a game after that. And I think we won 2 or 3. So we went from being top in March to finishing 3rd, which was the one that actually qualified for the UEFA Cup with that Bayern Munich, Vitesse Arnhem and Inter Milan. So again, Fergie was right. And, within that time, I was always thinking, will I move? But Norwich were very good with, the wages weren't brilliant, but incentives were fantastic. The chairman, Robert Chase, at the time, used to make sure that we were well looked after. If we won a game, if we had a clean sheet bonuses, and I'm screaming at the lads in the last 5 minutes, "Come on, lads, clean sheet, another £500," and all that. "Come on, let's do it." So, money was a bit of an incentive, but at the same time, we were fighting at the top end of the Premier League. So, great experience of my time at Norwich. Unfortunately, 94, I got injured at Christmas time, broke my leg at Forest away. We were in the top 6. After the game, we got beat 1-0. We dropped to 7th. And there was a clamour for them to go out and get a new goalkeeper. But Andy Marshall, someone again who you'll know, guys, from your time at Millwall. Was it Millwall with you as well? Yeah. So Marcy came into the team. And he had a couple of good games at the beginning, brilliant for a young 18-year-old keeper. There was a couple of loan keepers come in, but they didn't do well. And Marcy stayed in the team, but we actually got relegated at the end of that season from being 6th in December to get relegated. So that was devastating. I remember being on the pitch at Ellen Road, walking around with the players, not on crutches, but I was nearly fit, but not 100%, and sort of devastated. Relegation from Norwich City, who'd been up there since 1986. So, we had a great run at it. And, that was a sad day, but, you live to fight another day.
Brian, just going back to that European Cup run, because I think I came in for a trial around that time. Mike Walker was the manager, wasn't he? I was at Cambridge. I came in for a trial, and you could sense there was something really good going on there. And when I go back to that sort of Bayern Munich, was it away from home? You won 2. Was it 2-1 or? And I think you said something about the Bayern Munich owners maybe taking Norwich a little bit lightly. If I'm right, what did that feel like around that time?
Yeah, so the first round we got Vitesse Arnhem, and we got absolutely battered in the first half, 0-0. The goalkeeper played quite well. We ended up winning 3-0. The Chief scored, Efani Kuku.
Yeah.
Efani Kuku scored the first goal, and then John Polston and Gossi. Of course, Gossi scored. And then we drew 0-0 in Arnhem. And then we were going to Oldham on an away trip on a Friday afternoon, and we did a sweep. For who we would get in the next round. Anyway, Munich came out. I had Munich. So I'm on the bus giving it lads. Lads hated when I won things because I'm sure it was you. So we got Munich. So we get away, and you're right. There was the owners, but the owners are more like the ex-players, aren't they? So Franz Beckenbauer, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, XYZ. I don't know if Sepp Maier was in there as well, but there was all these quotes saying that Norwich were the country bumpkins, and so we got a bit of that. Anyway, we get to Olympic Stadium. We train the night before, as you're allowed to in European games, and nobody wanted to come off the pitch. The pitch was like unbelievable. We were playing five-a-sides at the end, and they were all saying like the Germans were trying to get us off and said, no, we're playing, we'll keep playing. Next goal's the winner, last goal's the winner, whatever it was. Anyway, they turned the floodlights off on us, so we had to come off.
Wow.
So we got off the pitch, and then next day, nice little walk, and we ended up beating Bayern 2-1 in the Olympic Stadium, and to this day we are the only British club to have ever won there, and that's in the history books now. Nobody can take that away from us because they don't play there anymore. Anyway, Arsenal beat them in the Allianz Arena, so that's something else. Doesn't count. So we've got that record, and then so we're 2-1 up from the first leg, and then we take them back to Carrow Road. Keep it tight, lads. First 10 minutes, massive importance. So anyway, Adolfo Valencia scores after 4 minutes. So we're back level. We've got the advantage of 2 goals away from home, but it's 2-2 aggregate. They need to score another. So defended well, goalkeeper played well, and then Jerry Goss. Again. We missed Jerry Goss's volley, because I think Gary would probably remember Jerry Goss's volley at the Olympic Stadium, and he's just like landed perfect volley and he's dipped it over the top of the keeper. And Gossi was on a purple patch that season, and then he came up with a side foot volley to get us back to 1-1, and then we just defended for our lives. I was slapping Lothar Matthäus around the face. He was getting agitated. Got a yellow card. I got a yellow card. The end of the game, Lothar wasn't happy at all. Gossi swapped shirts with Lothar. So Lothar's running in. So he's run past the referee and he's thrown Gossi's shirt at the referee.
Wow.
And so Gossi's walking off the pitch after we've done a little celebration, showing off our abs, Dave. There was a couple back in the day. Ab. And Gossi had a lot of abs. I had one ab, And Gossi's walking off the pitch and he's picked his own shirt off. So he's gone off with Matthäus' one and his own one. So he had a right result. But that was probably the biggest result of our history. Unfortunately for Norwich, it's still remembered as probably one of the biggest results of our history. We had the reunions. It was great to see with about 10 of the lads back. There was some big Spencer Pryor still over in Australia. He managed to come back for the 25th reunion. We had a game against Inter Milan at Carrow Road.
I was there.
You were there, were you? So
I noticed you didn't invite a fitness coach to come and help you lot, by the way. But there's zero surprise there, is there?
Yeah. No, that was a great day. That was a great night the night before. I managed to get all the lads to bed just before 2 a.m. The Italians came in for like 10 minutes. They'd played Chelsea in a Legends game on the Friday night, beat Chelsea Legends 4-0. So we're thinking, oh no, here we go. So we've got half and half. We've got our UEFA Cup guys, and then we've got Huckabees and Adam Drury's and younger. We've got the younger guys as well to take on the second half. So I go to bed after getting all the lads to bed at 2 a.m. and then get up the next day and sort of really relaxed and casual about things. So, and then all of a sudden somebody says, "What are you doing here?" It's like, I'm thinking it's a 3 o'clock kickoff. It's 2 o'clock kickoff. So the next minute I'm rushing about everywhere trying to like get things, like everyone's in the tickets are there, like blah, 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 blah. So I'm last in the dressing room. And anyway, I get in the dressing room. I try and get my training top. So I'm trying to get my training top on, and the boys have swapped it for a medium.
Great banner.
And they're all like videoing me and laughing at me. I'm like, turned around. I said, "You bastards." Anyway, so I get out and do my warm up. So my eyes are gone. I wear glasses now. So go out and do my warm up and run out. Big cheer. And then Andy Marshall, Scott Howie are the two other goalkeepers playing 30 minutes each, meant to be. And then we get out. Andy Marshall volleys a ball at me. I catch it. I run back in. That's my warm-up done. That's it. And I go out in the pitch. So I go out in the pitch, take my mobile phone with me, and I take my glasses with me because I don't know what's happening at the other side, in the other half. So I take them out. So I'm in goals with my glasses on. The next minute, they're coming over the halfway line. So I take my glasses off, throw them in the goal so I can see things happening now. And, I went on Instagram Live for 10 minutes. So I had the phone up in the goals with the crowd and all that as well. And then I made a save, and it was like the biggest cheer ever. I made another save and another cheer. And then, what's his name? The guy that headbutted Zidane, or was that Zed?
Materazzi.
Materazzi.
So Materazzi's playing. They get a free kick like 22 yards out. And we get the wall up, get set, and he smashed this thing, and it's going towards the top corner, and then it's taking a little deflection of Mark Bowen's shoulder. Anyway, I'm there, and I've got a dodgy finger. I don't know if you can see the dodgy finger. So I think the dodgy finger gets it, but just puts it onto the underside of the crossbar, and it goes in. So there's two things in that. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm off. So I give it the old sub. So Materazzi scores past you. It doesn't really get, it doesn't get much better than that. Jurgen Klinsmann could have scored past me, but he came on the second half. And also I thought, when I saw the pictures the next day in the local paper with me diving full length, like good technical shape, but my belly was hanging out of the top, I thought that was it. At 54, that was my last ever game of football. So definitely retired.
Well, Brian, I'm interested to know, like, so there's not many people do it now, but, to play, I think something like 390 games for Norwich, was that being a club? I know club legends bandied around quite easily, but I think we can safely say that you were a club legend at Norwich. But was that easier in that position, or was that harder? Did you feel more pressure playing with that reputation or not?
Yeah,
well, just to correct you, you've obviously looked on Wikipedia.
God, what was it really?
Wikipedia do league games only.
Yeah. Oh, that's
we're
right.
all about the data here, Brian. All about the data.
Analysis and data. I love it. It was 477 games in total.
Oh, wow.
So it must be lots of cup games.
There you go.
Full members, Simoid, like whatever else. Rumbelows Cup, played in the Rumbelows. Got a TV for big man of the match.
Yeah, remember those?
Yeah, we did actually check Wikipedia. At the bottom, it tells us who edited the page, and seemingly you've taken out all of your bad games.
Sorry, yeah, it did say played well in 390. It said, sorry, I got that wrong.
That's wrong as well, because 477 games, 476 good ones.
Right.
The only one anyone ever mentions is a game against Ipswich.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes. I mean, fresh air shot from Robbie Ullathorne's pass back. But I blame Robbie Ullathorne a little bit, because we did say before the game, let's keep the pass backs wide, because it's rutted goal mouth. We went out and looked at it. Keep it wide. No problem. I'll deal with it there. Anyway, it's come straight down the middle, hit the penalty spot, bounced over my knee as I'm trying to ping it up the other end. But I don't blame Robbie Ullathorne 100%. I blame Mike Milligan, because Mike Milligan passed the ball back to Robbie Ullathorne. If Mike Milligan could have one forward pass in his career, that was the day he should have done it, instead of passing it to Robbie Ullathorne. So I still give Millie stick to this very day. We've actually reenacted that goal at a golf dinner with the Ipswich players who were on the pitch that day as well. So we've had everyone who was on in the picture at the end. Even James Schoolcroft, who was running towards the goal, who actually claimed the goal. So he's run away with his hand. Schoolcroft run away with his arm in the air. So yeah, but So again, look, to play for Norwich City in that amount of games, to be recognised in the Hall of Fame, which is fantastic as well. We just lost one of our Hall of Famers last week, Terry Alcock, God bless him. He was one of my best match day hosts. He used to have great stories, and he used to always pick the man of the match, and it was always the right man of the match. So well done, Terry. God bless you.
I could actually recount all of Terry's pre-match chat that he used to do in the dressing room, because I sat there for 10 years.
You had to sit through it.
When him and Bill Punton would take tours around, and he would recount. I think I've heard it almost as many times as you played for Norwich. I've heard the story of the Man City Cup final and painting Adidas stripes on boots.
Yeah, 1958 Cup run. Terry was playing in that 1958 Cup run. So the great thing about that is that the guys who sponsor the games are normally managing directors who were kids when Terry Alcock was playing. So they're legends. They're heroes to them. And it's a bit like that now. The managing directors of the companies now were kids when I was playing. So when I go back to Norwich and go into the Legends Lounge where Huckabee and Drury, they're all there doing the stuff, Gossie. You know them all, you see them all. And obviously I played golf with them as well because I was a telephone salesman at one stage. But just to be part of it and then to carry on going back because of Angus now, obviously. I live in the northwest, so probably wouldn't go as much if Angus wasn't playing there. But I go to most home games and then obviously a lot of away games as well. So just to be there and still sign autographs and get invited back by the club to do dinners, get invited back by Roger Day to play in golf days. So it's. I wasn't a one club man, but I was 26 games at Aberdeen, 477 at Norwich, and then I played 12 for Hibs. And I've been fortunate to have played for good clubs, and then a few times for Scotland as well. So I think I've been lucky in my career when I look back, and I couldn't have asked for any better.
So obviously a lot of the skills you speak about there, Bryan, your personality, the relationships that you have in the dressing room, the banter, whatever. Then you transition out of football, and you kind of go into those kind of commercial roles where you're like supporting the club. Probably I remember when I arrived at the club, and I think you came back not long after this whole commercial department, and it was you and Gossie and people like that. How was that as a transition then? Was it that you wanted to stay in the game, or was it that the club said, look, we recognize that your skill set as ability to reach people and talk with people was going to be valuable for you?
Yeah, I think just going back one couple of days before that, when I retired from Hibs, I actually broke my leg again at Hibs. So I had 6 months of rehabilitation. So 2 leg breaks. At the age of 35, then what do you do next? Obviously, I'd done some coaching badges. I'd got some qualifications, not finished them all. Got into a good chat with Norwich City, Gordon Bennett, who was the chief executive at the club back in those days, and Andrew Cullen, who was the sales and marketing manager. They said, well, there's a job here for you. I actually did a breakfast speaking thing, and then they came up to me after that and said, well, what are you doing with yourself? I said, no, I've got nothing in the pipeline. They said, well, come and work for us. And I said, yeah, that sounds good. But just before that, I got in a conversation with a guy called Mel Henderson, who worked for the Daily Star, and he'd lived in Ipswich, Colchester area, and the Colchester job was up for grabs. So he phoned me up and he said, I think you should go for it. You've got, you've played lots of games, you've international, you've done some of your coaching badges. Pat Hurd, as the chairman. So I said, yeah, well, how do you spell that? Wrote it down. Pat Heard, right, no problem. Anyway, so I sent him a fax. Because with fax machines back I had a fax machine. And I don't know why I had one. I didn't need one really, but I had a fax machine. So I wrote out the fax and sent it through. Dear Mr. Heard, blah, 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 Bryan Gunn, qualifications, games, etc., etc. I'd love to be your next manager. Anyway, to be fair, it was quite a quick response. I think it was a fax came back fairly quickly. Said, Dear Mr. Gunn, please note the spelling of my name.
His name wasn't Pat, was it?
It was Pat. It was just Heard was H-E-R-D, not H-E-A-R-D. And the press guy fucking gave me the wrong spelling. So there you go. Attention to detail, isn't it? Attention to detail. So that was it. I could have been Colchester United manager. And funnily enough, Colchester United came back to haunt me, didn't they, Dave? We'll get on to that.
We'll get on to that. Maybe, we were going to skirt around that, but you brought it up.
I brought it up.
You dodged the bullet. You dodged the bullet there, Brian, because if there's a potential owner that's so bothered about the spelling of their name, I can only imagine the problems managing the club.
You're right, Gary. I think you're right. Yeah, definitely, for sure. So then, I go back to Norwich. Basically, I was the icebreaker for Andy Cullen, who was brilliant at packaging together sponsorship deals, and but didn't sort of have the other personality. He was a Norwich City fan, but he didn't have the other side. So that was basically the icebreaker for him. Every meeting we went to, came back with a new deal. I used to sit in front of the board of directors. Andy used to take me in, like, what have we done this month? And then all of a sudden, like, we'd get round to who's the new shirt sponsors, and said, well, we've been to see Coleman's of Norwich, and they've decided to come on board. So yeah, all right. Andy used to use me quite well like that. So and I did that for 6-8 years, and got really into it. But I could also go and play golf with clients. The match days was obviously very important for us because we could we'd look after all our sponsors, and then I had a team of ex-players who'd look after each individual group. So I was sort of managing that team as well on a match day, making sure they're all in the right place. Because if you remember, Dave, we all had the walkie-talkie radios. Peter Oldfield. Peter Oldfield used to have to collect man of the match. I used to go, Pete, where are you, Pete? We've got sponsors here waiting for you. And the man of the match would be getting a bollocking, or he'd be taking his time in the shower, whatever. So I'd be getting on to Pete. Pete, get in the dressing room now and get the man of the match out. Whoever it is, get him out. And so that's the way it did. And then, to be fair, when you remember back, Dave, I used to come to the training ground with the kit sponsors.
That's right.
So again, that was a nice sort of easy access, because I could relate to the managers. I could speak with the players, having retired not so long ago, and then obviously introduce the sponsors into it in a fun way. And the things like play of the season dinners, host them. So all of that. And then sort of came to a stage where I thought, I've done this enough now. And then they didn't want me to leave, so they gave me another title. So a sponsorship sales manager. Then I went to club ambassador. So again, that sort of opened it up for more days out with sponsors, golf days whenever I had, just come to the game on match days. And obviously lucky enough to get paid for doing it. So that was probably 98 to 2006. And then, if you remember, Peter Grant came to the club as manager.
Yeah.
Granty loved being a pitch coach. He wanted to be on the pitch all the time, Gary. He loved coaching, speaking with players, hated the other side, the agents, and organising scouts and different things like that. So he asked, I think, Neil Doncaster, who I met last week in Germany as well, who was chief executive at the time then. He says, I want the big man up at the training ground with me. So Dave mentioned earlier, man of many titles. So then all of a sudden, club liaison came in. So I was sat in the manager's room next to the manager and fielded all the agents' calls, the scouting reports that used to come in from Scout 7, used to formulate them into, a
Scout
readable
7. Wow.
Scout 7
Age now.
days. Yeah,
That's director of football. You're basically director of football, Brian, at that point, aren't you?
Sounds
Let's be
like it.
honest.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But again, it was back at the training ground, so it was great to be around it all. And that was the start of it, Dave, then, when I went back on the coaching circuit. So I went back down the FA route, ended up at Keele University with some of our old friends. Paul McVeigh was doing his badges at the time, Dwight York, Mickey Mellon, who ended up being the manager as well. There was a Brazilian lad called Rambo. Well, you know what it's like, Gary, when you're on those coaching courses. It's everybody, isn't it? It's like it's a mix of everybody. So, but we just had a great time. We obviously did our work. We were all in it together. We were taking part in each other's sessions, and then at night we'd have a few beers. But Yorkie used to go away. He used to go back up to Manchester, and I think he turned up in a Lamborghini. There was a Porsche. There was something else, but it was always every day that we used to walk down to the training pitches. But Yorkie used to drive down, and he'd always take someone in the car with him who'd be like sort of like looking out. So, but yeah, so that was the back on the coaching scene through Peter Grant's sort of wishes. Yeah, go and do it. I want you to get your qualifications right up to date. So yeah, so back in it then, in a football sense.
Yeah.
So then, obviously, fast forward a little bit when you became the manager at Norwich.
Yeah.
What was that something that you kind of wanted to? Was it always an aim, or was it just an opportunity? Like some of these things, was it just something that kind of fell your way? And how difficult was that, Brian, living in the area and being a legend? Because of course that brings an additional pressure where everyone knows you. You're so recognisable. There's very little escape for a manager when you're working locally, isn't there?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, Gary. So after Grant, he decided he'd left the club, and then they took in Glenn Roeder. So I found my relationship difficult with Glenn. I was then sort of asked to be goalkeeping coach, Dave, because his goalkeeping
Finally
coach
got to work with me at that stage, Brian.
got to work with Dave at that stage. So he was waiting for his goalkeeping coach, Tommy Wright, to come over from Ireland, who had some family issues that he needed to deal with. But so about 6 months I was working with Dave and doing the goalkeepers, which was great. A great set of goals. Andy Marshall, Matty Gilks, who else was coming through then? Big Joe Lewis. Those guys were still at the club. Jed Steer.
David Marshall rather than Andy, yeah, David Marshall. Yeah, Marshall's mixed up.
That's a slip. Who else was there? There was Remy Matthews, who's still involved in professional football. Angus, who is obviously involved in professional football. Aston Oxborough, who is sub goalkeeper at Motherwell. So looking after these guys, and until Tommy Wright came, that was a great experience for me. It was doing that side as well, and then obviously trying to help them on match days, prepare for the games. And we were up and down the league, Dave, weren't we, that season? We were up and down the league, and it came to the stage where we played an FA Cup tie against Plymouth away.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
got beat. And I think we played Charlton at home in the league, and we got beat at home as well. And then Roger Mumby, Neil Doncaster came up and said, right, sorry, Glenn, that's it. Coaching staff sort of left. Lee Clark had left just before that to go to Huddersfield. Paul Stevenson, Tommy stayed on with me. So basically what happened was the chairman and the chief exec came into the training ground with no plan. So I said to him, what are you doing? Who's taking the team? He said, oh, we've not got that far yet. And I said, well, you want me to take the team with Tommy, Dave, Ricky?
No, I've gone at this stage. I've
got Mark.
I've been marched out the door at this stage.
You got that one, did you?
Spanish elbow, yeah.
So took the team on the Saturday, ended up playing Barnsley. We won 4-0 at home. It's like watching Brazil. The lads were out so relaxed, like playing football, Wes Houlihan was on fire. Came in after the game. Well done, lads. Blah 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 blah. I was doing the press. Little did I know that the players were in the chairman's ear, in chief executive's ear, saying, Gunny needs to get the job. Gunny needs to get the job. We've had a great week. He's done this. He's done that. The coaching staff have done this, that. We really feel good. So, but to be fair, the players really got me the job. I wasn't asking for it. I was quite happy to go back into like the scouting role that I had then under Glenn. But once you get offered it, and I think Ian Holloway was in the running. I think Paul Ince was in the running. Ian Dowie was in the running. And then I sort of got persuaded by family and friends. Ian Butterworth, Dion Dublin at one stage said he'd come back and work with me. Ian Crook was available coming back from Australia. So the sort of little dream team is forming. And then went on the Monday afternoon after that, got in the last interview, and then ended up coming out with a job. Which then it was like, right, okay, how do we... Like we had a week left in the transfer market and the loan market. We'd already had more than enough loan players. So sort of regurgitated some, sent some back to clubs, and then got my own signings in. And unfortunately, right down... We only got out of that bottom three once, and then on the last day of the season, we needed to win away at Charlton, and Barnsley needed to lose at Plymouth. And unfortunately, we got beat 3-0, and Barnsley won, so we got relegated. So that was tough. As the person you were talking about, Gary, who lives in the local area, one of my big things to the players was, if you get beat, you're not going out tonight. Don't go out, because, there'll be some stupid fan out there. One or two will have a go at you, and it could end up in tears. 99% of my players respected that. I think there was one or two that unfortunately made a mistake and got reprimanded for it, never played for me again. And then obviously that's when you start building your sort of respect up with the team and your rules and regulations. So kept the job, signed a new contract, signed 12 players that pre-season. So 6 with Neil Doncaster and Kevin Platt, and 6 with David McNally. Had a great pre-season, went up to St Andrews and stopped the bus at the roundabout next to the Old Course Hotel. So I'm pointing at that and says, lads, if we'd stayed up last year, we'd have been staying in that hotel. But no, we're staying up here in the halls of residence. All right? But I promise you, if we win the league, we'll be staying there next year. So that, all those things that you try and get into the head. Pre-season went really well. We signed Grant Holt, was our main signing that year. And there's lots of League One clubs after him, but we managed to get him. First game of the season against Dave's Colchester. For the first 10 minutes, we were like Real Madrid. For the rest of the game, we were real shite. 5-0 down at half-time. 2 supporters running on the pitch, throwing season tickets. Going back to Manny, my kit man, Dave, he was one of the ones who'd actually grabbed one of the fans that came on. And then Stuart, the physio, he was out there as well. So my protectors were right in front of me, which again I treated as a respect for the manager. They were out there to protect me, so that was great. Came in the dressing room at half time. Obviously, I think I was suited and booted that day. Jacket off. Poof, what's happening? Blah 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 blah. And Wes Houlihan said they were tired. 5-0 down at half time, they were tired. I said, why are you tired? You're the fittest man in the club. He says, you ran us on Tuesday. So that was a mentality that has sneaked in there. So anyway, I grabbed Gary Docherty's Sun Factor 50 and threw it against the wall, and all their suits got covered in suntan lotion. Sent them out for the second half. I said, you better not get beat. Unfortunately, we got beat 2-1. I sent Cody McDonald on, who 6 months before that, I'd been painting London Underground. So Cody's come off the bench and, got a goal, got the ball under his arm, 5-1. But we ended up getting beat 7-1. So had that meeting with the chief exec afterwards. Dave McNally said, "This is not good, not good." I said, "We'll put it right on Wednesday. We got Yeovil in the cup on Wednesday, and then we've got Exeter away in the league on the Saturday. So what we decided to do was stay over. So we go down, we stay in Exeter University, go down to Yeovil. We win 4-0. Make a few changes. Goalkeeper, obviously, unfortunately, got the hook. Michael Theoklatos. It's easy for me to say with these teeth now." And then took in, I think we signed Jack Annick, Ben Annick, one of the Annick brothers. He came in and we ended up winning 4-0. Grant Holt got a hat-trick. Tom Adeyemi had his debut, one of the young academy players. Good team performance, stayed down for a couple of days. And then on the Friday, got the phone call from the club secretary. David wants to meet you at midday. And I was with Ian Butterworth having a coffee, and I said, "What's he after coming down so early?" And then it just went me. He said, "He's coming down to sack me. He's coming down to sack me." So obviously inevitable happened. We sat outside having a cup of tea, and he says, "Look, we've lost confidence in you." I said, "What, after one game?" And he went, "Yeah." He said, it's too far to come back from here." I said, how do you want to do it? So we made a decision. Probably shouldn't be telling too many people like the whole story, but I asked for a certain amount. He came back to me like 10 minutes later. He said, "I'll go and speak to the board." I spoke to the boss, Sir Alex. I said, "What do you do?" He says, "I'll send you the league manager's number. I think you should be on to them straight away." And they said they couldn't do mutual consent. So I said, "Well, you have to sack me then." And then within a minute, the ticker tape on Sky Sports was going round. So it was all planned and it was set in place, wasn't it? So that was me. I had a first-class train back from Exeter to Norwich. It's quite a long way, that. But first class is good because they were selling white wine. So a few bottles of white wine to London, and then London to Norwich, and first class London to Norwich, they were selling white wine as well. So my mate picked me up at the station and made sure I got home safely. And then that was it. So from there, selling mobile phones, playing golf.
People don't realise, Bryan, how sort of ruthless the game can be at times, can they? Like, we all understand it, but 1 minute you can be winning a game 4-0, and the next minute you're out of work, travelling back on a train, with your family, everything. Everyone's thinking, what we're going to do next? What's going on? It's a very unique job, isn't it, in that sense? Well,
I think it is for the managers in that way, because that's done there and then sort of the staff probably don't know either. So they've got in their heads, well, what's going to happen to me? And very often in this day and age, isn't it, if a manager leaves, it takes his staff with him, certainly at the top level, and then a whole new set of people come in. So I think it, just for that whole backroom staff, just leaves that uncertainty. But that was one of my things I needed to do, was meet the staff to tell them what had happened. So I did that. Had a meeting with the players, and I said, look to the players, like, go and prove me right. I said, I bought you all in to win the league. I even bought Matty Gill in. Matty Gill came in because Matty Gill he must have the most promotions on his CV. Honestly, if you look at the clubs he's played at and the promotions he's got, he was a Norwich lad. He wanted to come and play for the club, obviously. So brought him in. Owen Tudor-Jones as well from Wales. He still phoned me up. Gunny, thanks a lot. Because what they did was they signed contracts for League One, the Championship, and we put an imaginary Premier League wage in. But within 2 years, that squad had built themselves up into the Premier League. Obviously, Paul had made some additions, but they still thank me every time they see me. Thanks a lot, Gunny. we got to the Premier League thanks to you. So lots of those guys. Adam Drury. Every time I go back to the club, Dave calls me Gaffer. There's a lot of respect still there from the lads. I think you can only do your best, Gary, and sometimes your best is not good enough. There's other things behind the scenes that are working against you. But if you feel that you've given it your best shot, then you can walk away and look for the next opportunity. But I was never ever wanting to go in there. My thought was if we got promoted that season, would be to step back, and you mentioned it earlier, to ask and do the director of football role.
Yeah.
Because I'd probably experienced a lot of the things that go on within a club that would be suited to that role back then in 2009, whatever it was, 10.
Yeah.
So that would have been the way to do it had I been the manager and got promotion. Because Ian Butterworth, Crookie was 100% got manager material written all over him. So just a change of the guard and to be looking after those guys was probably the ultimate dream. But sometimes dreams don't come true.
Yeah, I'm sorry we had to shatter that a little bit on that on this day, but I think you'll see. I think we've got a photo of me just obviously keeping out of the way of these supporters running on the pitch, and obviously the highs of the success of the Aberdeen, and that's probably the low point. But it's, as we know, Brian, it's not what you've done; it's what you do next, isn't it? And you then bounce on to the next part of your career, which is you've sold some mobile phones, but again, all those skills and all that understanding of the environment of football. Now you move into like agency, and you've now been doing that for a long time, representing some great players, up and down the leagues, not just goalkeepers, but great players. So all of those skill sets that you've gained from being in the dressing room as a player, in the dressing room as a manager, on the commercial side, that must have set you up perfectly for what is now the role that you're doing today. Yeah,
well, it sort of moved on again. So we started about 14 years ago when Angus moved to Manchester City. We moved as a family to the Northwest. I would go to games with Angus and his agent then, Paul Stretford, and families would come up to me and ask me questions like, what have you done about agencies? We've got X, Y. I said, well, we've gone with these guys here, but they're all right. They go and speak to them, but you need to go and get your own feeling for them and get your own gut feel. So Paul said to me, what's happening there? And I said, they're asking about agencies. And he said, well, what did you? I said, well, I said we were with you and blah, 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 blah. He said, well, you should be recommending us. And I said, well, offer me a job. So that's how I fell into it. I more fell into it as opposed to that it was set in stone that that's what I was going to do. So then I can relate to parents because I've been through the whole academy process with Angus. Obviously, I've spoken to different agents over the years with working with Peter Grant and behind the scenes. And obviously, your little black book becomes important then as well. You've got that contact list. And then even access to people at football clubs. I think I mentioned off air that Gary was the quickest to react to an offering of a player or like what you're looking for this transfer market. Gary would always come back, with an answer, and that doesn't always happen. But people from your own era, and a lot of those guys are still coaches and managers, sporting directors. So that black book is crucial in this game. It sort of transpired more that now that our goalkeepers have got a little bit older. Like say Jack Butland, Angus, Dan Backman at Watford, Sam Tickle at Wigan. We've taken a couple of new younger lads on, Jake Dennis at Cardiff and Lewis Forshaw at Burnley. So my focus is more on goalkeepers, but with the new agency rules, Gary, I've tended just to become a mentor now for the guys. Go and speak to them, have a cup of tea with them, obviously watch games live and also on Y-Scout. Change of scouting program there.
You've upgraded there, Brian.
Upgraded. And that's the great thing about it now, and it's exciting now. It's the start of a new season. The younger lads are going in. They've signed their first pro deals, so it's a big excitement for them. in touch with glove companies because of their, my connections with the glove companies, make sure the guys have got the right kit for pre-season training. And then it starts again, another season. And, it's only just finished for me because I've been watching Angus right up to the 23rd of June, playing in European Championships. So that for me is great, just to be part of football environment. And I say it starts again, pre-season games. I think my first one I'm looking at is the 20th of July. I go for the big ones now, Rangers v Man United at Murrayfield.
Love it.
But it's my car it's got more miles on it than like any other car I've had. It knows how to do 300 miles on its own. It can just turn up at a football stadium. Obviously, the car park attendants, they know me as well now. You go in and you get a nice little hello, Mr. Gunn. It's nice to see you, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, it's still nice to have that. And I mentioned the big 6-0. That football playing side is such a long time ago. But, everything else has kept me going and kept me young. I think having a bald head as well, it's deceptive. It doesn't give away like grey beards and, things like that showing through. But, just to be involved in that side of it, passing on important information maybe, but knowledge is probably like my sort of main thing that I concentrate on now. And I've actually got a new title here now as well. I'm Group Ambassador at the Triple S Group. So, it all spins itself round. And I let the agents get on with it, and I'll just go and make sure the players are happy.
It strikes me, Bryan, though, that in a world where sort of we're entering into this kind of data, people are almost employed on data at times. But someone like yourselves had longevity in the game by, one of the biggest skills that I can see is you're a real people person. You engage with people. You can create that connection. How important has that been for you overall? Do you think that's been a big skill of yours and helped you in most of the roles?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that comes from your upbringing, your parents. My dad was like that, although his was more down the pub after work, like saying hello. And my mum used to send me down, get your dad back for his tea, and I'd meet everyone else in the town. Like, all right, Jimmy, all right, John, all right, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, my dad was like that as well. So I take that, I think, from my dad. My dad was a sportsman, played amateur football, but was a great runner. Not that I was a great runner. So yeah, that's sort of in me. And I've been able to take that all the way through. Even the Aberdeen lads, is it confidence? It's not been bullshit. It's the confidence of your own self. And I think that's me. And I don't think I've ever changed, no matter like how high or how low or how level you can keep yourself. And you're right, Gary. It's like meeting people. The best thing is knowing people's names when you meet them, and you shake their hands, look them in the eye, have a quick chat, and your numbers in the phone, not the phone book anymore, the phone. And that's still happening. But yeah, you're right. I think, it's great going out to games and sitting in the scouting area now and seeing what the scouts are actually doing. And one of my ex-scouts who worked for me, we always said to them, right, if everyone leaves on the 78th minute, which a lot of scouts do to get to the car park, to get on the road home, so they don't know what happens in that last 12 minutes or that last 22 minutes now. They miss out. We always say to our people, make sure you leave on the 79th minute, so you're the last one out. So nobody can come back and say that he's left early. Like you'll be the last to leave, and whatever time that is. So it's like passing on little tidbits like that. Not to say any of your scouts left early, Gary.
No, they usually went about 62 minutes. The games were that boring.
Do you think that part of it is being lost now, Bryan, where maybe there is an over-reliance on some of the kind of the ability, like to go on Y-Scout? You can just jump on and watch a player's clips, all his highlights, is not so good bits, but it's quite simple. You don't have to leave your office or leave your house. Whereas actually going, seeing people live and also networking and find out about the other parts of the player, that's equally as important, surely.
I think so. I wouldn't have signed Grant Holt unless I'd actually seen him play. So I was lucky enough when I was scouting for Glenn, Norwich were playing at Forest on an evening kickoff. So I went to Mansfield to watch the game at 3:00. Holty was playing for Shrewsbury. I think they had the player sent off, so they were playing with 10 men, and Holty was taking on the whole back four himself, chasing them down. They ended up scoring 2 goals, and I went away from there. Grant Holt, like blah 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 blah. Did a report on Scout 7, and that was all logged. And then obviously when it came around to my turn being manager, I already knew the kid. I'd already seen him play, so I was happy that we signed him. And I think Gary's probably, I think, similar, that he would go and watch a player and make sure he was right. And you can see, what's his reaction when he loses a ball, and is he brave? Does he do this? Because when you get sent these videos of players these days, you only see the good bits. So I got sent a player to look at the other day, but I saw the good bits, but then I went in to look at the other side that you don't see, where Y-Scout comes in important then, that you can watch more games and more footage. And then, so my mind was made up that, okay, he looks good on his good bits, but his bad bits outweigh the good stuff, so he's not worth signing for us. So I think that's important to sort of have that 2 ways of doing things. And again, if you've got friends in the game who have coached him, what's he like as a person? All those things are important now as well, just to get that sort of whole background knowledge of somebody. Because end of the day, they could make you a lot of money, but they could also lose you a lot of money. And as a manager, they could make you a great manager, or they could get you the sack. So I think it's important to do the old and the new and mix it together.
Well, that's been fascinating, Brian. I think what a career. Is there any one part of it that you would say, obviously, whether it was a player or getting to stay on afterwards and seeing now Angus transitioning through to being a top international goalkeeper, more joy as a player, as a parent, seeing your child, or taking on the manager's role? If you had a chance to do one of them again, which would you choose?
Oh, wow. I'd obviously continue to be a parent and watching Angus. Play more games for Scotland. because I was at the wrong era with Jim Layton and Andy Gorham. Yeah. You know, they played. Jim's played at like 90 odd, and Andy Gorham played 70 odd. I played 6 behind them. But yeah. Relive that Colchester United game, Dave, and make sure it wasn't 5-0 at half time.
Hey, I've lost 2 games. Brian, I've lost 2 games, 7-1. So it's all about the owner. You've got a patient owner.
Yeah.
You'd still be managing.
Spell his name right.
Spell his name right, absolutely. Yeah.
Funnily enough, that season, Brian, obviously we had that result, 7-1 at Norwich. And then later in the season, we also lost 7-0. So I've got one season where I've won 7-1 and lost 7-0. So, you know, that's the game, isn't it?
It is.
You just don't know what it's going to throw at you.
No, definitely not. But, still here to tell the stories. That's the main thing.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks for joining us, Gunny. It's been fascinating, you know, as one of the real characters of the game, and highly recognisable, not just because of your bonds, but because of, you know, your affability. Everybody enjoys your company. So thanks for taking the time to come and share all the stories with us and all of the insights.
Pleasure, Dave. Pleasure, Gary. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Brian. It's been great.